Alright, so today we're going to talk about Pythagorean identities. So we know the Pythagorean theorem, that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So this is similar, but we want to know the first identity is sine squared of theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. And then from here we're actually going to build two other identities from this. And so one way we're going to do this is by dividing each term by cosine squared. So if I divide all three terms by cosine squared, that's going to produce an additional Pythagorean identity. Now, in the previous video, we talked about our reciprocal identities. Now, what does sine over cosine represent? So remember, sine over cosine is technically the tangent function. So hopefully it would make sense that sine squared divided by cosine squared would equal tangent squared. And then plus anything divided by itself is going to be 1, so this would be plus 1. And then equals 1 over cosine. So the reciprocal identity for 1 over cosine squared would be secant squared. And so this would be our second identity. So we're going to want to know that. Then to find our third identity, we're going to take our original function, the sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to divide each term by sine squared theta. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us our third Pythagorean identity. Anything divided by itself is going to be 1. Sorry, I don't want you to think those are negatives. Those are not negatives. Anything divided by itself is 1, so we get 1 plus my cosine squared divided by sine squared. So what trig identity represents that? So again, if you could look at our previous video, or we slide up a little bit, notice how we have cosine over sine, and that equals cotangent. And so we are going to go ahead and write cotangent squared. And then finally, again, if we peek up top, we have 1 over sine squared, and notice how that is cosecant, is the same thing as 1 over sine. So therefore, 1 over sine squared would be the same as cosecant squared. And so this is our third trig identity. Now, you do not have to have these memorized, but we do need to know how to use them. So I want you guys to know this first one, this second one, and third one. So in your notes where you had your reciprocal identities, I also want you to be able to refer to these three Pythagorean identities. And we're going to see how we use these to simplify and reduce and solve trig expressions and equations.